Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start, I'd like to add a small disclaimer. I feel it would be disingenuous of us not to address what's going on in the world right now. We've been struggling, as I'm sure most of you have, with depression, anxiety, and finding motivation. This podcast is hopefully a remedy for that. We won't be discussing the news, conspiracy theories, or trying to sell you anything. We'll be sharing songs and stories and doing our very best to entertain you. We want this to be a place where you can smile and forget the world for a while. Not just for the listeners, but for ourselves as well. Now, with that out of the way, shall we begin?
My name is Matthew Bennett, and by my side is my son, Callum Gage Bennett.
How you doing?
This is FMA plus 12 Gage in lockdown.
Episode 1, The Beginning, where FMA and 12 Gage attempt to make a podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our 16th take of trying to do the intro for this frigging podcast. It's not gone very well.
No, it
This
hasn't.
podcast is FMA plus 12 Gage in lockdown worlds. We are performers, not podcasters. This job is a lot harder than it seems. Okay, I am Matthew Bennett, aka FMA. This is Callum Gage Bennett, aka 12 Gage.
Hello.
And we are attempting to do a podcast. I may sound a bit aggressive. If I was not interrupted then, that would have gone really well. Let's begin again.
Should I try it?
Go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are FMA plus 12 Gage, and you are listening to FMA plus 12 Gage in Lockdown World. We are currently stuck in Beyonce's basement for some reason. We can't really talk about it. There's NDAs involved, and I don't think either of us can afford to be sued. So, to my right is Matthew Bennett, aka FMA. Would you like to say something?
I'm his father. Just so then people know.
I never knew that.
I know you didn't.
We are also joined by my father's fiancée, Helen. Hi. And we are also joined by our myriad of practice and gigging equipment. Would you like to talk the listeners through what we're using, FMA?
Yeah, we've just brought the stuff that we practice with. And due to your clever idea a couple of weeks ago, we decided to create a podcast.
Yeah.
But it's a bit crazy how we bought all the stuff and it's all just suddenly come into use. It's like I've been stockpiling stuff for months and years for no reason at all. And Brandon, our producer, used to be like, "What are you buying all this stuff for?" I was like, because. And that was my reason.
One day we will make a podcast, Brandon.
Because one day this stuff will come into use. And it just so happens it has. So, Brandon, I'm right.
You owe us a tenner.
You do owe us a tenner. I'm really good at talking.
Yeah.
Pardon my assistant. What? Yeah, what Helen said there.
Cool.
That was very good. Very well done there, Helen. I will introduce you to my amazing machine. This, in 2000 and something, I was given a machine for free. And it's a DJ machine, and it just looks like a big box with buttons on it. It's a Yamaha DJ X something or other. I don't know the name of it. But I used to use it to write to. But recently we've been asked to do a lot of calmer gigs, because normally we do a lot of screamy, shouty, energetic, aggressive gigs.
Yeah.
And we didn't quite know how to fulfill these gigs, but then we remembered the DJ machine, and we've been messing around with that, and it's allowed us to create different versions of our songs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So during these podcasts, we're going to be sharing special, calmer versions of some of our songs and playing a few unreleased tracks as well, aren't we?
Yeah. And if anyone knows us or our gigging history, we used to just turn up to gigs and events with an MP3.
Yep.
Which had a name.
Yep, she was called Natasha. She still is called Natasha. She's on her last legs, but she's still going. She's still part of a band.
She is. So what we also need from you, ladies and gentlemen, is a name for our Yamaha DJ machine box.
That's a catchy name.
Yamaha DJ box.
Just box.
Box.
But anyway, yeah, if you'd like to give us a idea of what we should call this beautiful oblong, then Yeah, we'll put a picture of it up
Yeah,
on the FMA plus 12 gauge page. But yeah, so for now, we're going to introduce you to our first
acoustic style song.
DJ style acoustic song. Would you like to introduce it, 12 gauge? Just introduce it. No extra information. This is our 15th take. I'm sick of this.
Okay. It's also the 16th, but yeah. So this is Goodbye Good Night
by FMA plus 12 gauge. I'm 1 in a billion, and I'm building on my brilliance. From the ground up, I'm threading flowing filaments. Mental and physical, I'm fighting on both fronts. No point up in the end is approaching, it's all done. And I'm spitting in strong style, like Shabata, Rasa pass and never let the pain matter. I'm here to wreak havoc with my patterns full of pattern, mad passages and lyrical patterns.
I made dominance my habit.
I made perfectionism my profession. I'm not perfect, but I'm the perfect combination of obsession, depression and venom, passion and aggression, imagination I'm threatening, bringing in the deafening, conducting chaos in my cranium. Got your heads a nodding, got your cerebellum's popping with the flows I'm dropping. Got it by the tail and I'm not stopping. Got the sonics and phonics, sonnets and promises of torrents of abhorrence. I'm just being honest. I weave words. I pick the stars out of the sky. I'll steal the pennies from your eyes. I'll tell you the sweetest lies. I create to survive, I create to destroy, and I'ma conquer the world with these words. From the darkness I emerged, my lips curled. I was dreaming of the sickest of the wicked.
When the lightning above
struck, that's when my mind woke up. My tongue ducks as the floor erupts. Time's up, it's never enough. I'm covered in rust, I've suffered enough. I'm rising up and it's such a rush, but fun that separates us.
Stand side by side,
two of a kind.
We make the crowd jump, rebuilding the ground
But
up.
we got the shock and the sound waves.
Prominent and we're dominant on the page, ingrained.
When the lightning struck,
I've been sitting thinking, this dizziness is limitless, flickering vivid images like an old film in my head and just morphing, distorting the mundane to a morbid picture. This existence seems like persistence, and any form of resistance is quickly turned to
fiction.
Keep on going and ignore the friction. You can't hear the shouting from its distance.
What?
Guess we'll just bring it up louder. Hoods up, heads down, like we're here running out of subject matter. Stand up, stand down, and stand out, but say something with enough conviction it could shatter the atlas. Make it matter even if they batter their eyelids. Take it up another level, step it up in mileage. Make every moment defining, go from grey to ultraviolet. I wield words, but we'll set the streets alight. Take you with me to new heights. From a person who wasn't even worth the time, just a wayward knowing kid with a way with words, he found a rhyme. Now it replays in his mind, so let the passion shine
Through when the lightning above struck, that's when my mind woke up. My tongue ducks as the floor erupts. Time's up, it's never enough. I'm covered in rust, I've suffered enough. I'm rising up and it's such a rush, but fun that separates us.
Stand side by side, two of a kind. We make the crowd jump, rebuild from the ground
Oh, we
up.
got the shock and the sound waves.
Prominent and we're dominant on the page, ingrained.
When the lightning struck.
And that was Goodbye Good Night
By us.
FMA plus 12 gauge, aka us, the people you are listening to. Now, we did before...
Some people think, Callum, that I have an ego. Okay. No, this just popped into my head. Some people
Alright.
think that I've got an ego.
Yeah.
And I do have an ego. But there's a reason that I have an ego. Okay, Callum?
Yeah.
The reason that I am so proud of my work and the things that I do, and I will not stop talking about them,
Yeah.
is because I've spent a lot of my life alone.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of time to get really good at creating these things.
Yeah.
But the reason that I've had a lot of time to create these things is because I can't have the things that normal people have, like social lives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah? So when people think that I've got an ego, it's purely because I am proud of these things. And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are, for a lot of my life, they've been the only thing that I have.
Yeah.
And that's mainly due to being autistic. Yep. Which I wasn't diagnosed with until 36.
Yeah.
But that very cleverly leads us on to our next segment. Give
Yeah.
me a round of applause, team. Because we've been looking for a segue to get onto autism.
Yeah, we were. But
Yeah. Because
just
Callum
like
said he's
what
going to
you
do
said, I
all the
would just
talking
like
for
to-
this podcast. So this is my point, to talk over him already.
I would just like
To say,
add a point to what you just said, which is that one question I've always had is, why is it seen as ego when it's something you create?
I don't know.
Because it's like a mechanic, if there's a self-employed mechanic, is never going to say, oh, I'm a subpar mechanic. I'm a, average mechanic. Don't come
I know.
to me.
I think it's because when you create something, it's creating something out of nothing, and so there's an inherent feeling that you should not be as proud about those things as you should be. Because some
Yeah.
people really, really struggle with creativity, and some of the things that people don't understand about creativity is that it's like a muscle and you need to exercise it. And the more you exercise it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
And then just like in exercise, there's different forms of exercise.
Yeah.
And there's different forms of creativity. And the more you work out in each of those forms, the better you get at them.
As an overall creative person.
Yeah, and each creative form informs other creative forms.
Yeah.
So the more creative you are, the more creative you are overall. And my whole life has been based around creativity. It's something that I'm naturally good at, and it makes me feel good. And so, yeah, so that's one of the reasons that I appear to have an ego about it. It's never ever done maliciously or to make anybody feel bad. It's to make myself feel good.
Yeah.
Because my life has not always been the happiest thing.
And you should be proud of what you do.
I am. I'm very proud of
who
it,
you are.
Callum.
I'm not really addressing you, but, you know, regardless of who you are,
Yeah,
you should
anyone.
be proud of what you do.
Yeah.
And like we were saying before this C word came about and everything went to hell, we had so much planned. We were going to go and do an autism talk thanks to Anna Kennedy and
Yes.
our work with the anti-bullying campaign Give Us a Break,
Yep.
hashtag, with our song Spectrum, was we were going to go down there and give a talk about creativity and how that can improve mental health, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
And those were some points we were going to mention in that overall talk.
Yeah, we were. It's been a bit mad losing that talk. But
Yeah.
kind of a bit good because we had so many projects on.
Yeah.
It was really, really starting to stifle anything because it was hard to focus upon one thing.
Yeah.
And we had so many things to do.
And like at the same point, I was at uni
Yeah.
getting scripts written
Yeah.
whilst also trying to think of the talk and these new projects and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it was quite buckling, I think, for both of us.
It was hard work.
But it's quite weird going from having a lot of things to do to having nothing.
Yeah.
I think that's a really weird shift.
I know, it's like falling over
Yeah.
and then having to stumble back to your feet and carry on running.
Yeah.
And so that... Sorry, Helen, our beautiful assistant. Our assistant has told us to get back on track. Oh yeah, we're talking about things to help creativity.
Yeah.
So
You did mention a story when a couple days ago we had a call from P-Town guy Steve?
Shane.
Shane.
Sorry
Sorry,
about that,
I'm
Shane.
really
We
bad
didn't
with
mean that.
names. So, from P-Town Shane, we got a call, and you told a story which you actually weren't going to tell me that you were going to tell in this podcast.
Yeah.
No, in the
Talk.
talk.
Autism.
of
Yeah,
autism.
I like creating things that are always different each time. So that includes creating something with Callum.
Yeah.
To then be performed live. So I want to surprise him with little bits within the talk
Yeah.
because I'm an idiot.
Which also at the same point, if you think about this, ladies and gentlemen, we would have been in the midst of a university kind of lecture talk, and then he's just going to drop this story about David Fincher and the movie Seven on me.
Yeah, it wasn't about David Fincher. It's about the writer of Seven.
Yeah.
Seven. The reason that the horror film Seven was written, if you've never seen it, you should definitely go and see it. It's such an awesome film, but don't go and see it if you've got a weak stomach or you're easily upset.
Yeah.
It was written by a guy who had lived in the country and he'd gone to live in New York. And in New York, he'd found his whole world turned upside down. He found people shitting on street corners, drugs everywhere. There was prostitution. It was just like the nastiest parts of society was on show everywhere he looked. And his response to seeing all this nastiness was to create the script for Seven. And if you've seen the film Seven, you'll know what a dark look
Twisted.
dark, twisted look at the world it is. But he managed to get out all that badness, all that horrible feeling within him in that script, and you can feel it. It's such a nasty idea and film and stuff.
Also, if you look at it, it can apply to mental health and a like mirage of other things, not just mental health, where anything that's in your head that is a negative emotion can be expressed and people can actually find something from that.
Yeah.
Because Seven has probably influenced a ton of films.
Yeah.
It's influenced a ton of writers, and it's like David Fincher wanted to direct it as well. And if you think all that came from this guy just walking around and thinking, God, how horrible is this? And being stuck in a very horrible situation.
Yeah.
And the fact that he managed to turn that around and create that into something that then people looked at.
Yeah.
And were like, oh, whoa, this is insane.
Yeah.
That type of feeling is also really beneficial as well when you create things, because a lot of our songs came from both of our mental health and both of our dealing with certain things. And I don't know about you, but to me, whenever we do a gig and someone comes up to us after a gig and they're like, oh, I really identified with that thing, or, oh, I really enjoyed that song,
Yeah.
and we know where that came from, that's such a nice but odd feeling.
Yeah, to create something from a place of darkness and then for it to bring joy to people and make people happy or entertain people, that's an amazing thing. But you'll find that no matter what form you start creating in, whether it's dance, sculpting, drawing, writing, singing, absolutely anything, you'll start to put the parts of your subconscious mind into it without even thinking about it, and you will start to slowly, without realizing it, you'll start to get out these things that you can't normally get out. And it's so mad because you could write a story about this very specific thing that lots of people near you will know about, and barely any of them will pick up on what you're actually writing about.
Yeah.
It's really weird. There's like writers out there who've written stories about their mums and stuff, and my mums don't have a clue that the story's about them. So creativity is like super beneficial.
And especially during now when there's not a lot really. I think stuff is going on, but it's not easy to go out and fill up your time.
No.
And I think having something to pursue and perfect is...
Well, not even perfect, Callum. Just do something creative, something from where there's nothing. Any tips? Well, our assistant, Helen, would like to know any tips on creativity.
Well, one of the ones I've always had is, which you taught me, which is that nothing should be wasted. If you write something or you create something and you look back at it and you think, oh, that's terrible, don't throw it away, don't do anything with it, because the idea is there and the idea could come in at a later point, regardless of what that is.
Yeah.
Like if it's a painting, you could go back and repaint it.
Yeah.
Or there could be one thing in that painting that you really like and you do that again and you do it better.
Yeah. Well, bad ideas lead to good ideas.
Yeah.
And for every bad idea you've got, you're just one step closer to the good idea.
Yeah.
That's all they are. It's never failure. It's nothing like that. You're just ticking things off a list going, no, it's not like that. No, it's not like that.
And also, I think a major tip for me is to let go of the fear of creating something.
Yeah.
To let go of the fear that, for instance, when I started rapping, I remember Helen and Dad, we went to Blackpool for my birthday.
Yep.
And we were driving back and they played Eminem. And at that time, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be as good as this. But it's not that. No one's going to be Eminem because no one can be Eminem. Eminem's Eminem. So what you've got to grasp is that you're not going to be like the person that is the pinnacle or is better than you. You can only improve on what you do.
Yeah, be the very best version of you.
Yeah.
You're the only person you should compare yourself to.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you're better than you were last week, then you've made improvement.
Yeah.
And that's all it can be. And you forget that these people have years and years of practice, years and years of working. And you never ever see that because you just see the finished product.
Yeah.
And it can seem disheartening, but you just need to remember that.
And also on that point with creativity is there's a lot of effort that goes into it, regardless of what form that is. But when it's done well, it looks effortless.
Yeah, it does. But my tip for creativity is just be playful with it.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I'm so good at creativity is because I haven't grown up very much.
No, you haven't.
No, I'm very childlike, and so I can play with things really easy. It's really easy to just be silly and have fun with things, and I think that's where the most creativity comes from. After the fun part, it gets serious, and you put your head down and you proper start working. But to start with, it's like just mess around and just when you click upon something good, you'll know you've clicked upon something and you'll want to carry on creating it. But we get so afraid of like the eyes in society that are on us that we daren't make any mistakes or make ourselves look foolish when it doesn't matter, because those people who are afraid to try anything, they're the ones who can't really do it, and it's a bit crap. But anyway, I think we've done enough with creativity for now.
Oh yeah.
About exercise. Oh yeah, no, I mentioned about exercising like creativity. Like creativity is a muscle. But so is your imagination. Like, the more you imagine things and the more creative you get with your imagination, the better you get at it. It's like you see comedians who are really good at one-liners, like Jimmy Carr. That's because he practices one-liners all the time. But then you get ones like Noel Fielding, who are really good at surreal comedy. But that's because he does surreal comedy all the time. And that's what people forget. You focus on this one aspect of things and you'll start getting really, really good at it.
Oh, yeah.
And Sean Locke, he's really fast. because he practices being fast. And it's how it works. And that's why some comedians cannot go and work in other environments. Like Jimmy Carr is brilliant when he's like answering people in the audience and he's on a game show. But when I watch his stand-up, just him on his own, it's just one line after one line. It's not as good. And the same with Sean Locke. He's funny live, but he's nowhere near as good as when he's on the like game shows and stuff.
Yeah,
but
when
it's like
there's
that.
people to bounce off. And...
find what you're good at and just work on that and improve it. And find a really good friend or a close friend that you are not afraid to share things with. Yeah. Because... they will tell you the truth. If they're a good friend, obviously. Don't find a bad friend.
Oh, no.
That'd be really bad. But yeah, find someone else's eyes because you can become blind to what you've created.
Yeah.
But yeah. Now, our assistant over here is nodding enthusiastically. I think we did this version good. After 17 takes in the first section, I think we hit this one on the first one.
Thank you.
Excellent work. And moving on, we're going to let our beautiful assistant read one of our stories that we've never ever released, have we, Callum?
No. Would we like to?
The Growling of a Belly. Well, we wrote it for my step-niece and Callum's step-cousin. And I was told by my sister that nothing scares her. And so we set out to scare her. And we managed it. She gasped when she read this story. But anyway, we hope you enjoy it.
The Growling of the Belly. Billy was a very hungry and greedy boy. Every day when he woke up, he would lick his lips and his stomach would growl. He'd look in the mirror and think, "What can I eat today?" He would nag at his mum until she fed him. At school he would complain and complain until it was lunchtime. And then he'd eat his food and any other food he could find too. He ate his fellow students' food, the teacher's food, and anything else he could get his hands on. Then, when he got home, he'd eat everything in the fridge, and sometimes he'd even eat the dog food. His parents didn't know what to do with him, neither did the school. They sent countless letters home. The teachers even called round to speak to his parents, but Billy wouldn't stop. Billy was the reason that the whole town was starving. That is, until one day when Billy arrived home to find his parents were out and the house was completely devoid of any type of food. He checked everywhere, but he couldn't find anything, not even a crumb. There was no dog food, no old food in the bin, nothing. Billy sat down and thought. He looked up a moment later. Spot, Spot, Spot. He shouted for the dog, but his parents must have taken it with them. What in the world was he going to do? Billy's stomach began to growl, and Billy began to cry. He had only wanted to nibble on her, just a little. A couple of days later, his parents returned home. They and the rest of the town had taken every piece of food and animal far, far away. They had all thought that it was the best way for Billy to get better. They could not have been more wrong. They found Billy, lying on the floor of his bedroom, unable to move. He'd eaten his own arms and legs, and he was busy trying to chew on his shoulders, but he couldn't quite reach them. "Oh dear, Billy, what have you done?" But Billy didn't answer. He couldn't hear them over the growling of his belly.
Didn't our beautiful assistant do well at reading that? Everybody give her a round of applause. There's at least 500 people in this basement now.
Yeah, I know.
For Helen.
I know, Beyonce's basement is huge.
I know, she's got a lot of people down here, but we must not talk.
NDAs.
Yeah, so anyway, would you like to introduce the next part of the podcast?
Yeah, so when we thought about doing a podcast, we kind of did what we did with our live streams, where it was like, if anyone has a question or anything like that, send it in and we'll answer it. One of my mates, Jordan Edwards, sent
He's one of my mates too.
One of mine and my dad's mates, Jordan
I told him
Edwards.
my name was Jojo. I wouldn't let him know my real name for a long time.
One of mine and my dad's mates who believes my dad was called Jojo for a while.
George
for a while. I'm wearing headphones. Right, so he sent in a question of who would we like to collaborate with?
Yep.
Out of anyone.
Yeah. But I figured let's talk about collaborations rather than that. Because I would like to collaborate with someone who's totally different to us.
Yeah.
Someone who brings something new
Yeah.
to what we can't do. So a female vocalist, that's always brilliant because that's the exact opposite of what me and Callum do.
Yeah.
Or someone who sees music differently. Just something different. Because I see all these rappers and things, if we're just jumping on each other's tracks, it's like, all right, okay, right, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
And it's really, really rare that something special happens in those tracks.
That's a good point I wanted to bring up, because what I hear when everyone talks about collaboration is one of the people who always appears, and I've talked about him earlier, is Eminem, but I would never like to collaborate with Eminem. And there's two reasons for that. Mainly because I already work with an obsessive, like, overly critical writer. Handsome man. But the other end of the spectrum is that whenever I hear Eminem, I think he's really good at writing verses, and I hear that consistently. But I don't think anymore, at least, he's very good at creating a song. And there's a very big difference to me, and this is something that my dad, FMA, has taught me, is that there's a difference between just a great verse and a great song. And I think the difference is that with a great verse, the rest of the song can be terrible. You can be like, oh, I don't like that guy, don't like that guy. Oh, why is he saying that? But then you wait for the good verse.
Yeah.
Whereas a great song can just keep you engrossed throughout the entirety of it until the end. And I think that's one thing which I've picked up on after being a writer, when you hear some Eminem songs and Eminem's brilliant in it and the rest of the people in it aren't. And to me, it feels like Eminem hasn't turned around and went, no, you could do that better.
Yeah.
What if we tried doing this together? And I think it's that thing with hip-hop, isn't it?
Ego.
Well, rap, more generally, because hip-hop is a culture. But more generally with rap is that it's seen as a very competitive thing.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, that line doesn't make sense, let's work on that together.
Yeah.
It's always...
Yeah, rappers, they're like writers without all the rules of writing.
Yeah.
Which is really weird. They're like hybrid writers. But the rules of writing are there for a very specific reason. And that's why you rewrite, and that's why you get feedback to get the very best product. But because the ego's there, they just don't do it. So yeah, sorry, you were saying about collaboration.
Yeah, it's kind of like keeping it to yourself, in my opinion, from what I hear, is like keeping it to yourself, so then when the song is heard, people can be there like, oh my god, he just demolished that track. But what it should really be was that track was amazing, everyone on it put in 100% effort. And
I want to hear that song again.
Yeah.
And that's what...
rather than I want to hear that like 1 minute section again. Because in my opinion, that's not a song. Yeah,
I agree. I completely agree. So anyway, down to the question, who would you like to collaborate with?
Who would I like to collaborate with? Like you said, someone who's completely different to us. One person I would love to collaborate, well, there's two, because I think they both, as songwriters, are brilliant and they both sound distinct in their own ways.
Yep.
Are Plan B or The Streets.
Cool.
And I think because both of them are so diverse and different to us, really, from what they can do, I think it'd add a dynamic to a song which I don't think has been done before.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. What about you?
Me? I don't know. Peaches.
Oh, Peaches.
Yeah, I think Peaches is awesome. I don't know, just someone absolutely mad. We've got a couple of collaboration tracks coming up with us. We're going to be working with JoJo from Pulverize.
Yep.
She's an awesome vocalist.
Defo.
We're hoping to create something cool there. And the other one we're doing is like with 9 MCs where the whole beat's going to change and stuff. But it's for our next album that I'm not allowed to talk about. But I don't know, from famous people, who would I like to collaborate with? Sticky Fingers, purely to be on a track with Sticky Fingers. And then for him to get mad at me.
Yeah,
for being an idiot. For trying to give him advice. Yeah. Sticky, you could write this line better. And then I get shot. The Death of FMA. That's what the song's called.
Yeah, the Death of FMA. The thing I've thought with Sticky is I'd love to collaborate with him, so we can say we've been on a song with Sticky Fingers.
Yep.
But I'd love to collaborate with, Back the Fuck Up era type.
Yeah.
Sticky.
Young Sticky.
Like when he just went mad.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah. But
Go on.
I don't know.
But that kind of highlights the point as well, which I was saying before,
Yeah.
where like a lot of Onyx, and it might just be because like nothing against Fredro. I think Fredro writes really good verses. Fredro,
Yep.
don't come and get me. But like I think that I always listened to Onyx and waited for Sticky. That was always my thing. It'd always be the last verse.
Like everybody listens to us and waits for me.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, of course.
Helen, our assistant, is nodding enthusiastically there. She's lost. What? We didn't go on a bit. If you at home enjoyed what we just said, please leave it in the comments that Helen is wrong. She just got lost and started playing on her phone. Thanks, Helen. But anyway, yeah, I don't know who I'd like to collab with. But pardon, Helen? Okay. Who would... I don't know. I really don't know.
Jimmy Pop?
Jimmy Pop. No, I like someone who sounds so... Maybe Carla Lagrange, because she sounds so different to us. Someone on the opposite end of the spectrum. So
Yeah,
maybe
you
Bjork.
kind of want someone nice, don't you?
Bjork. Bjork would be mad.
That is very true. Bjork would be mad.
Yeah.
FMA plus 12 Gage featuring Bjork.
Yes. I know. We all love Bjork. She's mental. That's why she's ace. But yeah, maybe
Kate
someone
Bush,
like that.
If
Pardon?
Kate Bush was still about.
Kate Bush?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kate Bush would be cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've answered the question, have I?
Okay, cool, yeah.
Yeah, cool. But there you go, Jordan. That is your answer.
A really long answer.
That
to
was a
very
really,
simple
really long
question.
answer. Right? You got your questions worth there,
Yeah.
didn't you?
And if anyone else would like to send in any questions.
Things for us to talk about.
Yeah, or anything.
Because
at
if
all,
we're left to our own devices
it just goes off.
forever, as our assistant can attest to. She's nodding now. She's nodding, but she's pointing at me like, you're the best. I am the best. Thank you very much, baby. I love you too. So, yeah. Shout outs.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. So we would like to shout out who would like to shout out this week.
Well, this week, are we just doing one of these a week? We don't.
Because otherwise you'll shout out forever and people get bored.
People
the
will not
shout-outs.
get bored. They'll be waiting for their turn.
3 people down for a shout out this week.
3 people down. Well,
Okay.
first of all,
shout outs.
well, it's not shout outs. It's bringing attention to people who are doing good things. First of all, we got Edward Breverton, who's planning on running the marathon once it gets up again. We're hoping for October. What?
Up and running.
Yeah, we're up and running for October, but we'll
Yeah.
see. But he's raising money.
And
for
he's growing a mullet.
He is. Oh, I was getting to that. He's raising money, I think, for the firefighters and veterans charity. I can't remember the name of it. I'm not sure. I might have got that confused. If you could check my beautiful assistant. But yeah, he's running a marathon and he's growing a mullet. You can follow him on Instagram.
He's just reaching for his phone now.
Right, hold on. I've just got my phone. But yeah, you can follow him on Instagram. We'll put a link to him in the description for this.
Yeah.
We'll put a link to the charity site.
Yeah,
But
as
yeah,
well.
he's growing a mullet for this thing. So the longer this thing gets put off, the longer his mullet is going to be. He's like shave the front half of his head. He's growing the back half.
Yeah.
Read out what he's put on his Just Giving page.
He looks amazing. But anyway, yeah, he's written, as a former Royal Marines commando, a firefighter, someone who hates cancer, and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt, and a Judo black belt, I am combing all these elements, combining, he wrote combing, but we won't mention that. I am combining all these elements by running the London Marathon in Reorg Jiu-Jitsu Gi to raise money and awareness for Reorg and the Royal Marines Charity, the Firefighters Charity, and Cancer Research Cancer Research UK. Chuck us a fiver, nice one. So yeah, he's doing that awesome thing, and we'll put the link up in the description.
Yep.
Before we move on to the next shout out, there's just a really, really interesting little fact here. Edward Breverton turned down a arm wrestle with Callum Gage Bennett purely because he was afraid. So
I've won
Callum
that.
Gage Bennett is 1-0 against arm wrestles with Edward Breverton due to forfeit.
The black belt, purple belt.
Ex-Marine
Ex-Marine
firefighter,
Would
medal.
not have an arm wrestle with the likes of me.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's how great 12 gauge is.
It is.
And for our second shout out, we'd like to shout out P-Town Podcast, who are carrying on his podcast at the minute, and he's trying to raise awareness of people affected by the C word and just things like that, isn't he, Karen?
Yeah, trying to, I think, educate and also, like we are, trying to take people's minds
Yeah.
kind of off what's
Entertain
going
people.
on.
He's who we're looking up to at the minute with our
Yeah.
podcast. He's
Yeah.
going to be the judge, is Shane.
Yeah, and
Not
then he's going to hear
Sean.
this and he's going to be
Not
like,
Sean.
what were you doing?
Yeah, he's going to be the judge. So, Shane, we hope you've enjoyed our attempt to podcast.
Yeah.
Yes. And finally, Helen? Oh, yeah, I'd like to bring awareness to... oh, my goodness, my phone. Gemma Smith, who is... She's attempting to help people through creativity, a bit like we've been doing. She's started a Instagram profile off called gem_blue_art. And her goal is to help people use creativity to help their mental health. So she's an awesome profile to follow. Like we've done with the others, we'll leave her link in the description. Yeah. But you should definitely check out all three of these people. And yeah, I think that's it. Are we done for the podcast today?
I think we are.
Well, to end this podcast off, can't talk there. Shall we try again?
Yeah.
Well, to end this podcast off today, we're going to be playing a very, very special song. We were meant to be making a video for it. It is called The Takeover. It's never been released anywhere before.
We've done it at, I think, a couple of gigs.
Yeah, we've done it at a few gigs. So if you've seen us live recently, you may have seen this song there. But yeah, this is something we recorded and it's never ever been released. So we hope you enjoy it. It was influenced and inspired by the work of Mike Moran. He did a boom bap beat that just triggered something in my head. And so thank you very much to Mike Moran for helping us create this song. And we hope to see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Yep, take care.
Wash your hands.
FMA plus 12 Gage out.
Bye.
About to kick it all off with a punchline. Another hook, but to the course for your back. A lariat and I'm kicking shit off with a clothesline. A rainmaker, a cloud buster, a soul breaker. I'm the decimator, devastator. Call me the decapitator. A gods I make sonics and slip. Not bringing strong style to the hip hop. Give me your best shot, you ain't got what I got. I'm so sick, I make the beat rock. The flows drive like maggots. The growing fatter, I'm a damaged little addict. I spit upon my platter of my eyes. See madness in eyes. It was she had this gift from a pen and this power. Did you ever consider how many hours it took thousands is a genius and a lifetime is a master? And I'm minding the lines, I'm minding them out of my mind. Step the fuck back, step the fuck aside. They wait for the mastermind. F to the M to the A, from a 12 to the Gage. Let me take a step back. The Kima wants his mic back. Something very wicked comes this way. Comes this way. Comes this way. Comes this way. Comes this way.
X to the I, I am an am, but next in line to admire my ire, and I am standing defiant, kept to the incline. Now everybody take a step back. And admire the image, I'm dying to hear it. Still got a message through despite the interference of the orchestrator. Force of nature, creator, the meltdown that caused a crater, yeah greater. I'm unorthodox, trying to have the two horns. I got this to form four man, everything's a sore spot. I can stop time, break the hands of a clock. No hope holding when you can't conceive, so breathe with me. I'm grinning gleefully, still tapping eagerly. I'm too hungry and I can hear your chattering teeth. Nothing's beneath my feet, it's the sounds that carry me.
Something very wicked comes this way. 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 All I needed was a catalyst, an aberration, an antagonist. I'm a cataclysm, backing up, but watch my skill eclipse. Shoot your eyes from the sky to corona the abyss. Surmise your demise is nigh, and my advice is hide infinite drive. The mission is gonna rise. I'm a silhouette by the light. If you could see what my mind shows me, you'd see why I'm gonna make the fuckers all grow. Make them topple and fall, I'll be the downfall. I'm the one they ignored. There's never ever gonna be anybody better. I'm pleasing letter after letter, the epicenter of terror. I'll tell your tongue and tear off your jaw. My fingers slip and slip down your throat. The darkness within is beginning to grow. The sky crumbles and falls. Pick it up, rip it up, split the ground, split the dust, split the rust, cover, cut and open up. Rip it up, split the ground, split the dust, split the rust, cover, cut and open up. The host is a crawling, the walls approaching, my eyelids are closing. It's time for my turn, I got the urge to hurt the world. Prepare and bear witness. Something very wicked comes this way. Darkest, hardest, scarred up all my sides. Comes this way. Darkest, hardest, scarred up all my sides. Comes this way.